What's up, you Melvins? This is TKO Ryan. I am the best around. I am the one and only Sassy Wild Horse, and I am live on the Untitled In Progress Episode 9 podcast, starring BD Slam and my cousin and amazing man, Ryan. There he is, kicking it. So what's going on, man? You've dragged me out here. You've taken away my Tuesday evening. It's 8:30 at night. I'm on Google Chat, I'm on Google Hangouts, which I didn't even have before. I've downloaded it for your ass, and now I'm here. I'm live. What can I do for you? You've got me for an indiscriminate amount of time, man.
God, I love it. Thank you for taking time out of your day. I know you're busy training. Got a big match coming up. Yeah, I appreciate it. Joining the podcast. Like you mentioned, episode 9, still untitled, a working in progress, but had to get my favorite cousin on this podcast. Talk about pretty much things going on in the Ring of Honor. If you want to talk about the big match you got coming up.
Yeah, man. So, pretty much right now on the horizon, the big one is me and Vinny Marcellia, the Horror King, will be taking on the Motor City Machine Guns down in Lakeland, Florida, I believe. Ring of Honor goes live at ROH Elite. Basically, it's something that's been in the build for a little while now. Search and Destroy has been a big pain in my ass since I came back from injury, and even before then, we were beating them up in Pittsburgh, San Antonio. So, I mean, we've pretty much gone around the entire country with the Search and Destroy and the Motor City Machine Guns and the two forms that they take on, and hopefully down in Florida, me and Brother Vince can continue to make a wave in Ring of Honor like we've been doing since we started about a year ago now.
And you mentioned coming back from injury. How many matches have you had since coming back? And you broke how many bones in your leg?
So I broke my tibia and fibula clean through.
Yep.
My left leg, pretty much like where you'd bang your shin on a coffee table. So if you can imagine that dreaded darkness, bang your shin feeling, you hop around like a pirate for a while.
It's the worst.
Imagine the worst possible version of that, and kind of visually the way my leg broke was like when you karate chop a piece of wood in dojo class back in the day, but my leg was the wood,
Yeah.
So
not good.
Basically, the whole thing was cleaned through. They had to put a metal rod and 4 screws in there to put my whole leg back together, and that's in there forever now. So that happened back on March 10th. Surgery was March 12th. It's what now? Halloween. So I mean, we're shooting on 7-8 months now, and it's been kind of a wild ride to get back up on my feet after that.
I mean,
how's it been getting back in the ring? Is there moves you're trying to avoid? Is it just getting back on the bike and just going? Or
so as far as moves I'm trying to avoid, right? My first pay-per-view match back with Ring of Honor was Death Before Dishonor. It was the Kingdom versus the Briscoes and Bully Ray, and at one point in the match, things start cooking up. Guys start flying all over the place. Guys are diving out of the ring. I get up, and we're in Las Vegas, which is the same place where we're in the same building, same spot, literally the ropes that I bounced off of before I hit it. I get it all. Everyone's like, no. I jump up, bounce off the second rope, land on the apron, turn around, and give everybody the Italian salute. Just absolutely not. I'm not doing it ever again. So, that's kind of my thing as far as moves I avoid. I don't think you'll see me jumping out of the ring anytime soon. It's not a fear thing or anything. When it takes away all that time from your career and your livelihood, you just realize it's just not worth it. There's other ways to wrestle, and there's been loads of dudes that have made millions upon millions of dollars, more money than probably anyone who's ever dove out of the ring might ever actually make, and they never jumped out of the ring once, So it's just one of those things that I've kind of found it unnecessary. I don't knock it, and I totally understand why guys do that stuff. It's extremely exciting, and the fans can't get enough of it. So, there's no complaints from me out of that. But from a personal level, not really my shtick anymore. What I have done though is spring up over the top rope out of the ring to the floor and land on my feet, just to kind of test it, and see how all the hardware is going, and it held up nicely. As far as getting back in the ring though, man, if you've never been in a ring, you might not really understand it. Like, the ring's not soft. It's not like people kind of imagine it's like a trampoline or like it's like some sort of pad. I mean, there's a foam pad, but the foam pad is more like it's more like the mat you'd see like for like a what do you call it? Like, you know those crappy blue mats in gym class back in the day that would fold up into like an accordion? Yeah. The mat's really about like half as thin as that. It's really just something so that you're not on the wooden planks underneath. So the mat kind of has this weird soft step, like in the sense of like it's a little unstable. It kind of feels like those like Moby balls in the gym, those kind of squishy stand things. Like, it's just hard to explain. So at first that was a bit weird to get my footing down, to get my sea legs back, so to speak. But after a little while, I mean, it's been kind of like riding a bike, you know. I've put in so much time in a ring, and I've trained so many hours in there that after a little bit, you kind of just get the hang of it and learn to move again.
Yeah, you mentioned, I mean, you came up, I mean, have you always fought in the Ring of Honor? Is that basically like where you got your start and your come up? Like, you obviously did training and, you know, I don't know what they call it, like mat drills or whatnot, pretty much how everything goes in the ring, but is this strict?
Okay, so basically I joined a wrestling school in Fall River, Massachusetts called Lockup, and the head trainer at the time is Spike Dudley, who I'm sure you're familiar with wrestling and stuff like that. But so Spike was the head trainer at my school, and his number one guy, Ryan Waters, who's a local New England wrestler, was a guy who really helped me when I first started with like the kind of fundamentals, like basically the like keep your eye on the ball kind of stuff. You know what I mean? The throwing, the catching, the hitting, the running. If you want to compare it to baseball or something like that. But Ryan taught me the basics, and not just basics, but you know, like how wrestling really works. You know, he did loads of stuff, and I trained with him for. Oh man, I mean, to this day, I still swing by and I train with him now. But I trained with him consistently week in and week out for probably 2 years straight before I moved on to do other things. But in the time that I was training and just kind of learning how to you know, wrestle and how to do all the things that wrestlers do and how to present myself as more of a pro and things like that, as I kind of like started to learn that stuff, I started to learn more about Ring of Honor and like started to look into how I could get into it, because to me, wrestling is extremely dangerous, and it takes a big toll on your body. It takes a big toll on relationships that you have with friends, family, people that you've known for years suddenly disappear. Like, it's a tough life, but the flip side of it is like I have a job now where I only got to work, you know, when I got to wrestle, you know, and I got to go to the gym and things like that, but I'm not punching into the office every day. Right. So my mindset since I started has always been to get a job in professional wrestling. Like, when I very first started, I wanted a hobby, but it didn't take me long to figure out that, like, if I'm going to really do this, that I should really, you know, go for it and to go on it, because otherwise you just be hurting yourself for nothing. So Ring of Honor presented an opportunity for me to have a job in professional wrestling, which is like extremely important to me. Basically, I knew Mike Bennett from connections that I had from the school that I started. Mike Bennett and his wife Maria Canellis I started traveling with them to shows. Brutal Bob Evans would also let me jump in with him. Obviously Matt Taven, Vinny Marcelli, guys I tag with now. I just started going to all the Ring of Honor shows, and eventually, it doesn't take too long. You know, I'm over 6 foot tall and walking around. I don't usually hide too well. You can usually know if I'm in an area. You know, I'll usually do something to catch some attention somewhere, right? So after a while, you know, pretty soon it turns into like I go to Ring of Honor tryout. I did a couple of those. And then just one day my phone rang, and they offered basically me to come in and work with the company, and that's where I've been since. And the crazy thing about it is, like with Ring of Honor, like we just came in cold. We being me and Vinny. There was no like debuting soon videos. There was no vignettes, nothing. There was no, no advertisement. There was no, like, we didn't tell anybody. We kept it a total secret. And then we just showed up. And for a little while, we were getting this weird heat from people of like, who are you? Or what, like, who the hell are these guys? They're like, what's this low budget? But that, to me, is like what made us so special. It's like, we were like just these two guys that just showed up, like, middle fingers in the air, just doing whatever they want to do. And not really playing by any rules, and not really listening to anybody, and just doing their own thing. And, flash forward a year later, and Matt's been in the hunt for the TV title recently. He's been in the hunt for the world title recently. Me and Vinny have been sniffing opportunities at the Ring of Honor tag team titles. As a unit, we're always in the hunt for the Ring of Honor 6-man titles. So it's just crazy to me to think about, like, all right, a year ago, I was like so happy to be there. Now, flash forward a year later, and like now we're players in the game. Like we're not guys that are just happy to be there now. Like, we're guys that are demanding some success at this point. I think that's pretty awesome.
It's awesome, man. I'm super proud, man. The Kingdom, man. It's it's just following you from your Instagram and all your posts and whatnot. It seems like you've come a long way in a short period of time. You mentioned that you were working out in lockup for a couple of years, like 2 years, and then you kind of heard about Ring of Honor. Was that 2 years of training and then you got your first match, or like how long since when you started out training and then your first in-ring action?
Okay, so my first day of training ever was June 2nd of 2014, and I remember it because it was an open house. It was like the craziest luck in that I just decided to seriously seek out a wrestling school at the exact same time that this school just happened to be having an open tryout. Like, crazy, like, universe, telling you that you're doing the right thing moment that I wasn't paying attention to at the time, right? So I actually went up there, and this doesn't directly answer your question, but this is kind of a funny story. I actually went there the day before the open tryout because I heard that they ran Tuesday, Thursday, but this tryout was like, I think, a Wednesday or something like that. So I went up there the day before just to try to, like, see if I could go to the training beforehand, but they weren't there because they were doing the open house or whatever. So basically, like, if you could picture it, the lockup is on a third story floor in a old PAL Hall building in Fall River, Mass. So it's a bit old and it's a bit dingy, and it's kind of cool. It's got that Rocky appeal to it as you're walking up. It's like his Philly gym, So you walk up the couple flights of stairs, and you get up to the third floor, and that's where the training school is. And it's down this dingy, dusty hallway, and there's this big, huge wooden door with these, like, real, like, kind of ratchety looking door locks that, like, clamp shut. They're padlocked and everything, but there's this hole, and you can see through the hole, and in the room there's the ring with, like, a couple windows open, and there was, like, light peering down on the ring, and I'm, like, looking at it like, oh man, all right, that's where it's all going to start. So
that's where it's going down.
Yeah, it's funny because I can remember that clear as a bell. Like, I can't remember half the matches I've had, but I can remember that so vividly. Just like the wonder and, like, I don't know what the hell's going to happen.
Right, opening that door.
So like, to actually answer the question, I started training in early June, and we started doing, like, after a couple weeks or months, whatever it was, we started doing matches and training. And after basically Ryan and Spike were okay with that, I started wrestling. I had my first match I can't remember the exact date, but it was like the last week of September of 2014, so June and then end of September, however long that is. My first match was at the Plainview Day Fair, I believe, which was basically like a county fair essentially for Plainview, Mass, or Plainfield, Plainview, I think. And it was basically like there was probably 200 people at this fair, and maybe 30 or 40 of them were watching the wrestling show that was going on for free as one of the attractions at this thing. So it wasn't exactly the most glamorous start. But
did you get the W?
What's that?
Did you get the win?
Yeah, actually, I wrestled my trainer Ryan, or H2O Ryan Waters, and got the win that day. And we were off and running ever since.
Dang, is that like a normal? Is that a normal timeline for people starting out or getting into the business, like, or were you a fast learner?
So, I mean, I would say, like, I might have been on a bit on the accelerated program, not necessarily like a lot of guys. It takes them maybe not to have their